Hello and welcome. Today we'll be talking about the M200 from Skilhunt. This is a dual battery operated light. It uses either an 18650 battery or two CR123A batteries. The light features many different modes, and you can customize the UI with memory mode as well. It has a max lumen output of 1400 lumens. The lowest setting, low 2, is going to be 0.5 lumens. And the second lowest setting is going to be low 1 for 10 lumens, and that's going to run for 150 hours. The medium settings are going to be medium 2 for 65 lumens, and that runs for about 26 hours. Medium 1 is going to be 170 lumens, and that runs for about 10 hours. The high mode's going to be high 1 for 380 lumens, and that's going to run for about 260 minutes. There's two different turbo levels. There's Turbo 2, which is 650 lumens, and that's going to run for 145 minutes. And then there's Turbo 1, the highest setting, which runs for 1400 lumens for about 3 minutes, and then it steps down to about 650 lumens, and that will run for about 140 minutes. And that's with the 18650 battery measurement at 3500 milliamp hours. The peak beam intensity is 8900 candela. Beam distance is going to be 188 meters. Waterproof ratings IPX-8, and the impact resistance is 1 meter. The light has a low voltage cutoff, and it cuts off at about 2.7 volts with an 18650 battery. The dimensions of the light is going to be for length 104.5 millimeters or 4.11 inches. Head diameter is going to be 23.5 millimeters or 0.93 inches. The weight's going to be 46 grams or 1.62 ounces, excluding the battery. And the light does feature a proprietary magnetic charging port, which glows different colors to indicate the charging status of the battery. It also has a power indicator inside the switch as well. The light's made out of anodized machined aircraft aluminum, and it features a multi-directional pocket clip and a interesting UI system. The light also features a Nichia 519A R9080 4500 Kelvin temperature rated LED emitter inside of it. What that means is that this is a high CRI type of emitter that renders colors pretty accurately and has a slightly warmer tint than the usual bluer type LEDs on the market. Here on the table we can see what comes in the box. We have the charging cable here, and this is a proprietary magnetic charging cable. We have some extra O-rings here in a plastic bag. We have the light itself. I've attached the pocket clip onto here. This is a two-way pocket clip, and I've also attached the included lanyard that comes with the light itself. We have the M200 itself, and we have the manual below it, and this is the box that it comes in, and we can see the back of the box and the sides here. This is what the body looks like on the outside. We have the external charging port here, the pocket clip, which can be installed in any fashion on either the front here or the back in any kind of rotation fashion. I have it set up like this, and it's a dual-sided type of pocket clip. It fits okay in most fabrics, but it's not the best pocket clip there is. It is removable, however, so you can find a different pocket clip. This part of the light is also magnetic. It has a magnetic tail cap here in the back, so you can stick it onto metal surfaces for hands-free operation. On the top here, we have the E-switch here, which has an LED battery indicator and also a lockout indicator to find it in the dark. Right now we have it on the setting where it blinks red. This will drain the battery a little bit, so you might want to turn that off if you tend to lock this light out. This is only done in lockout mode here. To turn off this little red LED button blinking, it's simply 2 clicks, 1, 2. We won't go into any more of the UI yet. We're just going to go over the light here. On the front here, we have some heat sinking as well on the hard anodized aluminum surface. And it does get a little bit hot on the higher temperatures. We have the CE marking and also the information and literature of the light here as well. And we have the Skilhunt logo on the front and also the hot symbol on the top here. On the top here with the front bezel, we have some crenulations in the front here. We have a orange peel reflector, and then we have our Nichia 519A emitter inside of it. And it's pretty well centered. So that is pretty much the light on the outside casing. We do have a battery inside of it. We're using the Li-Core 18650 battery. We'll take it out and look at it. Here is the tail cap, and it does have a nice decent spring inside of it. The threads are okay. I can't tell which type of cutting they are. They appear to be square cut though. We have some grease on the threads itself, the O-ring for the IPX8 rating, and this is the battery we'll be using. It's a LiThiCore 18650 3000 milliamp hour battery at 3.7 volts, and its current discharge rate is 20 amp hours. Let's put that back in a moment here. Let's get another light to look inside this light here and see what the internals look like. So this is the inside of the light. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it does have a spring in the top head, so you can use flat top batteries in with it with not too much trouble. It is a little bit of a loose fit, but it does work. Let's go ahead and put that back in. This does not have reverse polarity protection, so keep in mind if you insert your batteries incorrectly, you will damage the light itself. So that's important to note when you do put your batteries into the light. When you put it in, you initially get a startup here for the indicator of the battery level. So this will indicate 4 different stages based on the light color combination. So let's go over the UI. As mentioned before, you can lock this light out by clicking 4 times from the non-lockout position, which this is on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll see it blink. And the switch here is blinking currently to indicate that this light is locked out. You can still access the light on in the lowest mode here on L1 or L2 if you will, and you can turn off this switch light as we mentioned by clicking twice, 1, 2, and it is off, so it won't drain the battery as fast. To unlock it, click 4 times again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will come on in the lowest setting. We're in the lowest setting of the light. We can switch that around by turning on the light and holding down, and it will rotate between the 2 settings here, as you can see on the table. We'll keep that on low. To engage the middle tier of runtimes, you can push the switch once and it will remember the last saved setting. This would be sort of like the medium 2. If you hold it down, it'll be like medium 1, and then go to high, and then rotate back to the medium 2 setting. So that's how you rotate the settings in the middle tier from medium 2 up to high. At any point, if you're in any of the modes besides turbo, you can double click and you will access turbo mode, and you can hold down while in turbo mode to rotate the turbo settings to turbo 2 and turbo 1, turbo 1 being the highest setting there is. And there is an audible noise from the driver. You can hear that with the light. I don't know if you can pick it up with the microphone here, but there is a small noise being made on turbo 1, and the light does get very hot. So I do recommend being careful when using turbo 1, as you can set things on fire or melt material. To access the strobe mode, it's either 3 clicks from off, 1, 2, 3, and it should be going in beacon mode. You can double click and that'll give you different types of strobing modes. One's an SOS, one's a strobe, and one is a beacon mode. I particularly find beacon the most useful, and I typically keep that saved in the memory. To get out of this, you can click 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and it'll come back to the regular mode, or click once to turn it off. And that's the basic UI mode of the Skilhunt M200. We're going to go ahead and get some beam shots of this and some measurements. Okay, we're back shooting ISO of 160 with a aperture 6.3. White balance is 5000K. On a Panasonic GH2 14 to 42 millimeter lens at 24 frames per second. And we do have some sunlight coming in through the shade, so I used a little bit of an item over here to block the incoming light into the sensor, so we get somewhat of an accurate measurement, or a relatively accurate measurement here. We're using the Oppo Lightmaster Pro, and right now we have the light on in its lowest mode, and I'm going to hold it about maybe roughly a foot or so off the table, try to get directly into the sensor here. We're measuring lux, the color temperature rating, and the CRI rating, and appears to be a pretty good rating here with the measurements on the lowest mode. Let's rotate up to the second highest mode here, or second lowest mode rather, and we go up to about 433 lux, about the same color and same CRI rating. And we're going to turn off the light and go to our next modes here. I'm going to rotate this out and make sure we're in the lowest mode. So this is our medium 2. and we're about 3700 lux, same color rendering, same CRI rating, and we're going to medium 1, and it jumps up significantly to about 10,000 lux or so, same color rating, same CRI rating. And let's go ahead and get the high 1, and we're about 2300 lux or so, same CRI rating, the CCT rating here. And let's double click to get to the Turbo 2, which this can't measure anymore on the lux, so we are out of measurements here. And then obviously Turbo 1 is not going to be measured either, and that's probably why we're using the ISO 160, so we can kind of see what the beam looks like on the camera. Let's go ahead and remove this off the table, and before we do that, actually, we're going to go to the BBL chart real quick just to see what it looks like. And this is the low 2. If I hold it down, low 1. So this is kind of still on the redder side of the tint bin on the 519A Nichia LED emitter. A fairly good emitter in my opinion, as it basically has a good tint to it and a nice color rendering. Okay, now we can stop this and look at the beam shots on the table briefly. All right, let's go back to the lower setting here, and this is the lowest 0.5 lumens. And once again, we're at 160 ISO, which is not a good ISO for being color sensitive. Let's go to the second lowest mode, and we can kind of see the beam profile kind of taking shape. We got a nice hot spot in the center here and a good amount of spill. There's no artifacts on the table. Let's go to our medium set of modes here. And we have our medium 2. Again, a nice tight hot spot, a good decent soft throw. Medium 1. And then finally high. And we can see that the spill really gets off the table. It renders the colors pretty neatly. And then let's double click here to the lower Turbo 2, and finally the Turbo 1. And you can kind of see how well it washes out in the camera here. Here we can see the MC-20 attached to the proprietary charging port and coming out of a USB battery bank here at 5.05 volts. And the current draw fluctuates between 0.92 amps to about 1.31 amps, depending on the current state of the battery. So a higher current draw means the battery's a little bit more drained. Less current draw means it's getting closer to being fully drained, is what I'm assuming. The port here has a magnetic piece to it and also a magnetic piece on the actual MC-20. What I've noticed on other USB charging ports is that this can spark if you run the positive part of the terminal along the negative part on the battery. So that can be a issue when it comes to charging. So that is something to keep in mind when you're charging this light, and it could be potentially a hazard. So I want you guys to be aware of that. The light can be activated while it is in charging mode, and you can use the different modes on it. So it can be used while it is also being charged. So that is something to note. This light on the top will turn blue when it is close to being finished but not fully finished. Red means it's still in the process of getting fully charged. Okay, we're back shooting an Aperture f2.8 with a white balance of 5000K. ISO is 1000. Frames per second is 24 with a Panasonic GH6 12 to 35 millimeter lens. Here we have the light on in the moonlight mode here, and that's my hand in the front. I'm going to bump it up to the second lowest mode, and we kind of throw out a little bit in front here. And here is our medium 2 mode. We can see the log out front about 20 feet out, and a good portion of grass in front of us here. Let's go ahead and bump this up to M1. We get a little bit further out to the tree out there, and we could definitely see the log and the stump of logs further out about 40 feet. And towards the back, the trees there is going to be about 50 to 60 feet out. And then we have the brook here on our left. Let's go to high mode here. And we can see a lot more. You can definitely see more of the tree here. See the logs and the backyard a little bit more. And here's the brook on the side. Let's go to Turbo 2. Turbo 2 here, looking pretty good. The throw is pretty far out in the yard. Let's go to Turbo 1. And we can see how far this shoots out. Very bright, lights up the whole yard. And it's got a good throw, and it does heat up quite fast in the hand. Let's zoom in real quick before this steps down. So that's about 50 or 60 feet out into the yard. Overall, the Skilhunt M200 is a decent light, has decent potential to it, and I do enjoy using it. I like the fact that it has both 18650 and CR123 type of battery operational capabilities. In other words, it's a modular battery platform, which I feel that is good in most electronics. I like the metal cap on the top here with the LED indicator for voltage, and also as a finder at night in the lockout mode here. I also like the UI system and the memory modes that go with the UI system, and I like the fact that I can turn this red light off so that it can save battery power. I like the look and styling of the M200 with the blue accents and the hard anodized body. The lanyard I do like. It's a standard typical lanyard that comes with the light, and the pot clip is decent. It's nothing to write home about, but it is nice to have that on a light as well. I do enjoy the fact that I can tail stand this. I do enjoy the crenulations on the bezel, and I also enjoy the emitter options, which is probably my favorite thing about the light. This can come in either a cool white or a high CRI edition. We have the 519A obviously here. That's in a 4500 Kelvin temperature rated color, so that's good. And it has a nice AR coated lens with it, glass lens with a orange peel reflector, which makes for a nice beam profile. And the Nichia 519A emitter is a lovely emitter to use in most lights, and I do enjoy it quite a lot. So that is probably the high point of the light here. I do like the idea of being able to charge the battery inside from the outside without having to unscrew the tail cap. But overall, I'd have to say that it is also one of the bigger cons of the light itself, particularly with that issue when you put the positive contact over the negative by accident. It can and does spark with certain USB powering options. It didn't do it with the battery that we had earlier, but I did notice it with a plugged-in charging port on a computer, for example. So that is something to keep in mind with the M200. I don't know if that's a defect with the light or my unit or just circumstance, but that's important to keep in mind. I do like the heat sinking on it, and I do like the fact that I can also put this on a metal surface, the tail cap area. So that is a nice bonus to it when you're working on a car, for example. So it's not a bad thing, but typically I don't like magnets in my tail caps because I use compasses outside, and that can interfere with my compass systems. This was sent out to me from Killzone Flashlights from Jody. I want to thank Jody for sending it out. I am an affiliate with Killzone Flashlights. I've been an affiliate with them for a couple years now. And I do have a link that you can use to purchase different lights on their website and items as well. So I do get a commission from that, and you can save a little bit of a percentage. I thank you for using it if you do end up using it. If not, no big deal. But I am an affiliate with them, and once again, I want to thank Jody for sending it out for review. Overall, I think I might have to hold off from recommending the light because of the sparking issue with the battery terminal here, at least the charging terminal, until it gets resolved and fixed. But other than that, it's a fantastic light if it wasn't for that issue. I think it works fairly well. It's got a nice size to it and a nice feel, and it kind of reminds me of the Skilhunt M150, a smaller version of this light, which they also sell on Killzone Flashlights. Overall, that's all I have to say about the light. I want to thank you guys for watching, and enjoy your day.